We called the meeting. Oh, it has started. Wow. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our second Implementation Committee meeting for the year 2026. We are very happy that you could join us. We would like to welcome our special guest, that is Dr. Nicholas Budsberg. He has a Dutch last name. I don't know if he has Dutch heritage, but in any case, he's an archaeologist. Dr. Nick has worked on Statia, so we thought it would be very fitting to have him in this meeting here today. I would like to welcome Peggy King Yorda as well. She's playing a very prominent role in terms of heritage in the US and all over. You know, she wears many different hats. So she's a real expert, I would say, when it comes to community engagement and cultural activities. So Peggy, welcome.
Thank you.
Zimmerman is our architect. He is the one who has been working in regards to designing the memorial for us. And so he plays a very prominent role. But Kenneth is no stranger to anyone. He is the president of the Alliance, and he is also represented on the implementation committee. Welcome, Brother Kenneth. Felicia is part of the implementation committee. She's an expert as well in terms of archaeology. So we are very happy that she is here. And we have, of course, Jacinta, who's a station, and we have Mr. Kotad Torian, who is also a station. And others may join us or might join us as we go along. So the objective of our meeting today is to talk to Dr. Nicholas about the desk-based
Oh, okay.
analysis. As we know, we are planning on conducting the reburial around the 13th of November. So what we had our architect do, that's Mr. Zimmerman, he looked at different pieces of land on Statia. And we had four. We selected four and we looked at
Mhm.
all those different aspects of the land, and we came out with one that is the land behind the Old Church Cemetery. So next to the Hospitainer, we thought that that land would be the most suitable. It's A, government land, and B, it's a very big plot of land. It's about 6,000 square meters. And all we are asking
It's
of
2000.
the government is for 2,500 square meters. So we have submitted our request to the Executive Council for this piece of land. So what we are now going to discuss is the things that we need to do before we could even utilize this land. And before you guys joined, I asked Dr. Nicholas, how would you like this conversation to go? And let it be very interactional. I think he prefers that. So I will pass the word over to him. Based on the agenda, there are some points that we need to go through. If there are questions, please raise your hand, or you may post your question in the chat section. So I will give the word over to Dr. Nicholas. If he wants to say additional stuff about himself, he's free to do so. And then we will go through the agenda in regards to what is a DBA, why is it necessary, etc., etc., etc. Dr. Nicholas.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure for me to be here today. My name is Dr. Nicholas Budsberg. I have been an archaeologist for about 12, 13 years now. I recently finished my PhD at Texas A&M. I was with CCAR as the director for about 2 years prior to leaving in about 2023, I want to say. I came in after the Golden Rock burial situation occurred and was a part of trying to come up with different ways to get the community involved, to get the reburial moving forward. And so I was asked about 2 years ago, or last year maybe, to put in a quote that if this work was going to take place, what would it entail? What would it might look like? And then we just got a recent follow-up here to say, I think we're ready to move forward. We got the plot of land that was outlined. And so I've had a chance to just look at it and do some quick little background research to familiarize myself with the plots I know of it and I've gotten to walk around it before. So I just wanted to be here to answer questions the best I could. I know these processes can kind of seem technical or sometimes nonsensical. What's the purpose? What are our goals? Why are we paying for this? How much time does it take? They're all very practical, good questions, and every place does it differently. So as you can tell, I'm an American, but the way we do archaeology in the United States is very similar, though still different to the Netherlands. And as I learned while I was on Statia, Statia doesn't have a specific methodology for how they do this work. They usually lean on the Dutch system, but then often they lean on the American system. So I point that out because you may have encountered different ways of different archaeologists or different heritage managers talking about it in the past. And so if you have any of these questions or you are confused by any of these processes or just want to know more, that's kind of the hope, is that you guys can jump in and interrupt me, and I will do my best to explain the perspective at least. I don't know if anyone wants to go down the agenda one by one and I can go through questions, or I could just kind of start with what I think might be the background introduction parts.
So just let it flow. Let just go, and if there are things that need to be highlighted from the agenda, we can bring that forward. So just go ahead.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, I will try and share my screen then if that's okay. I'll see if I can find all the ones I'm looking for. Let's see, we'll pull this here. I'll pull this one up first. So I believe you can see a Google aerial view on your screen. Is that correct?
We are not seeing anything as yet. Oh, no,
Yes,
yes,
Not
no,
yet.
yes,
no,
yes.
no,
Okay,
yes, yes.
it has loaded, so there's a delay. I'll note that. Um, can you see my cursor on the screen?
It's a hand.
Yes. Okay. That area where my hand is outlining the plot as I understand it that has been selected. It is just to the right of the old cemetery here, the old Jewish cemetery. And it is, I believe, from this upper road here, right where you see the Y split off, down to the other road here that starts heading back up in the same direction. And we're in this section here. Real quick, when we start to do a desk-based assessment, and I'm going to show you an example of one we've done before, mainly what we're trying to do is to do some of the administrative work to make sure we're putting on paper a formal list of the people involved, the questions, the project scope, an outline of the area, and then go through some of the background work, looking at, has any archaeology been done there before? Are there any standing things that are obvious? And then is there any known history? What do we have in our records? And that includes maps and other imagery. What do we have from our records that show us how much land use was there, when it might have been occurring, and what the chances are of a significant amount of material remaining? So really, we're just trying to, before anybody digs, do as much work as we can from the desk, hence a desk-based assessment. And then that will inform the next step. So at the end of this, you should receive a report from me. It'll outline all of these details, and I will pull up an example here. This was for a project. Hopefully you see a PDF on your screen.
PDF.
We're still seeing the aerial view.
All right, let's see. Give it one more sec here. All right, if that's not working, I will stop sharing and I will do it this way. I've had this happen to me once before. All right, how about now? Are you able to see a title page of a PDF document?
We're waiting for it. It's working on it.
Okay.
It will have to load.
Okay. Well, as that's loading up, I will just keep talking and see if we can. The goal of the desk-based assessment, let's see here. There's a a guideline, a set of guidelines put out by the Dutch government. It was printed in English in 2004, and I have a copy I could send to the committee as well. Uh, this is guideline points out what the basic steps are for archaeological work, and it has some technical definitions of the desk-based assessment. There's not a lot there. It doesn't really say specifically which types of research or length or goals. The main thing it's talking about is putting out the research questions. And in this case, our main research question, as I see it, and anybody is welcome to adjust or add, is are there any resources in the area that are going to be negatively impacted if we need to dig an area approximately, I think you said 2,500 square feet, square meters? We're
Square
trying to
meters.
assess square meters. Thank you. I'm going to make that note. Trying to assess the impact. We know that this area did have some occupation, and since it's such a large area, we have to look and see, are there places that we know would not be good to try this digging to reinter, that there's better sections? Or do we know that it's a bit hit or miss throughout the property, and we might need to do a little digging as testing? And so the first step here with the desk base is to get an idea of what the situation is. That then helps us decide what's the next step. Can we go ahead and start digging with an excavator? Or do we need to have someone dig some small holes to test and see if they run into anything? I'm guessing that this document did not show up on your screens yet.
There is a document here.
Oh, there is. You see a document in front? Then maybe we are active here. This is outlining the desk-based assessment from the standards, and that's the form I can share with you. It's, again, very short, but I wanted to just show you. Yeah,
Can I send a question? I'm sending a
please.
question.
Thank you, thank you. And I will switch back over, and hopefully this one pops up now too.
I'll pose a question there. Are we going to research assess the whole plot of land because it's 6,000 square meters in total, but we only need 2,500? Or is it better only to research the section of 2,500 square meters that we requested?
Certainly, it's a great question. I think it depends a little. With this situation, I will be approaching it from the 6,000 square feet perspective, but mainly because I know that a section of this plot has some existing ruins on it.
Yes.
And we are probably going to have to move away from those ruins for sure. So in my view, I'll look at the whole place, but I think we can already eliminate about a third, if not a half of that space for known standing resources. The good news there is that there was an archaeological field school done in the 1980s on that plot.
Okay.
And I have to pull that research from the College of William and Mary. It's not publicly available that I found. So I'll see what their results were. But I know of it from some previous research that we did. Do you guys see a document on your screen now?
Blue Circle Project?
Blue Circle Project. Yes, that's what it should say.
Yeah.
This was an example of one. So I just wanted to show you a bit of the table of contents here. We're providing an introduction. This is the study area, a background to the island, its natural history, as well as its cultural history. So the people and the physical changes, what we know. It's brief. This isn't designed to be a dissertation where we're going into great detail, but the idea is anybody could pick this up and have a bit of background that's relevant to understand what we're saying in the report. We then start to go through the historical and archaeological record. A big helper here is cartography and aerial pictures. We've got some of those that I can show you real quick. But then any other research that's been done, especially if there is previous archaeology, which there has been, so that's great. And this area actually had one place we looked at. For this project, they were interested in this region here, but down on this end is actually the plot of land we are discussing. And so we included some of the general research for this. This plot of land was known as the Princess Estate a little bit later, and I'm going to switch to another map. Hopefully it's going to update on your end as well. Let me know if you do see a map in front of you.
Yeah, I see it.
Excellent, thank you.
Hey, Mr.
So
Bryce.
we can see over on the left, this is Fort Aranya. And then the road that travels up here to this area where you can see the word ruin.
I think we're looking at the wrong map, Nick. Sorry. We're
Ah,
still looking at the one where you said it was part of the previous DBA.
thank you. Maybe I have to try this stop share and re-switch. I've had it have errors when I try to move screens before. We'll try that again. Okay.
Yes.
Over on the left side here, you can see Fort Aranya near the coast. Then if we travel to the right, we come to this area. There's several dotted lines that make a Y, and that is the Y that we looked at earlier in the road plan, the split. And right here, this area is the plot of land that has been highlighted. Can you all see my hand okay? And we're on the same page here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. So this was from 1963. It was an aerial flyover that they turned into a map, and they could still see these ruins there on the maps. This is one of the few maps I have that calls it the Princess area. And this map, I think they used this map for the name when they archaeologically called this region the Princess Plantation. And so that's where they get the term from. I'm going to switch to one more map, and this is the most useful for us. This next map comes from 1781. It's really the height of Statia at the time. And I'll wait and see for this one to show up as well. This one has by far the most information, and it shows what we're looking at pretty clearly. As the suspense builds.
Can I ask a question in the meantime?
Yes.
You talked about the Princess Plantation. Am I understanding you correctly that the plot of land that we're requesting, piece of that land, that's part of the Princess Plantation?
As I understand it now, correct. That is how they
So,
described it when they did the digging in 1985. But again, I haven't seen the whole report yet, so I
okay.
want to make sure, but that's how I understand it.
So then there is a possibility that if that land should be explored, that we may encounter human remains?
So it is a possibility. I would say it's almost always a possibility on Statia, but because of the proximity of the old churchyard and the Jewish cemetery, and as I was reading at one point, the fence line between the cemetery and that plantation was added in the 20th century. I think it runs the chance that there is some human burial somewhere. Again, it's always a chance, and we certainly don't want to disturb anything new, but that's one of the reasons we do this desk-based assessment is so we can really say where are the likeliest places to run into materials like that, or where are the safest. I think you can see the map now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I can see a map, yes.
Thank you so much. I will zoom in here so we can see, and this might help answer the question. This is from 1781. This is Fort Aranya here. We travel up the road and we come to the Y. Here, with this darker outline, is about the same area that's been delineated for the reburial, the repatriation. Right below it is a plot on the corner that says Old Church Yard. They continue the word church yard. This would match for the current cemetery location. There is something here that is tough to read. And then right on the other side is where you can see what looks to be a rather large plantation area. I say this is all a part of the Princess Plantation, but here we can see a little different. The squiggly black lines are
Mm-hmm.
used to represent the walls. These are stone walls, at least that were there when the map was made. And we have evidence of some of that disappearing and reappearing, and we've tracked some of it. So it's not perfect, but it's fairly accurate. But it appears that there is a stone wall that extends around this entire area, coming all the way down, with probably just a fence separating off what looks like field area and living or habitation or processing area. In other words, there's lots of buildings and other trees down here, what look like little houses, which may be in part of the enslaved village. There's larger structures here as well. And from the previous work, I believe that they had looked at this. It was rumored that there was a Jewish bath here because there was a depression, a bowl inside one of the ruins. But the research revealed that that was probably a sugar boiling facility. So it was for processing sugar and into rum eventually. And so we have the buildings from some of that, and that's with the other archaeological research. But what concerns me here is the extent at which you can see habitational structures all closer to the edge of the old churchyard. This again is a graveyard. And this area here to the right side where we can see more of this structure here, this is where the existing structure stands. I would try and switch over to Google Earth and we can take a look again. I just want to make sure anybody has any questions while we're here on this plot. But
Yeah,
this is why I believe, yeah, sorry.
Nicholas, what you just said that you think that there's a burial ground somewhere. Where was that again? I missed that. I didn't understand.
Yes. So if you can see this square outside of the rock wall fence that says Old Churchyard,
Yeah.
that matches today with what is called the Jewish cemetery.
Okay.
There are existing burials here, and it's
Right.
something I also wanted to bring to the attention of the implementation committee. But if you can see right where my hand is on
Right.
the map, there
Yeah.
is a wall there that is eroding. It's
Right.
about 10, 15 feet higher than the road. And
Yeah.
there is already several graves that are beginning to erode from the Jewish cemetery.
Okay.
In my time, you could see several pieces of bone still sticking out of the wall. And
Okay.
it's right next to the fence of the
Right.
other property. And so it may be that the boundaries were well respected throughout time. No one was accidentally burying someone on the other side. But because of Statia's, the way that the population dwindled and the activity dwindled so much over time, it leaves room for a lot of these places to fall derelict. And if there's no room in a cemetery or someone's not allowed to build there, sometimes people just pick places nearby. And as an abandoned plot of land, it's tempting to at least believe that it could be a possibility. So I'd want people to be aware that we're in the vicinity of a burial ground that could have been extensively used for a long time. And if we are in a place, and you can see over here, where there was an enslaved village or places for people to live, house, or be while processing, there's a good chance we're going to run into some of those features during any research or reinternment.
And
I
can you
don't know if
tell
that's
me, I'm sorry, can you tell me the period of the plantation and then the old churchyard? Do you know like when what was opened? What are the
roughly, well, it's certainly in the 18th century. We know that there was some beginning of sugar plantation works as early as the 1660s, 1670s.
Mhm.
Really into the 1700s, it starts getting very busy. And
Mhm.
so we're at the height here in 1781 when this map was being shown.
Okay.
So exact occupation, exact activities, I would have to see the research and see if they found that out in their archaeological dig from 85 or 87,
Mhm.
whenever they did.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're looking at that 18th century plot. And the later maps and images that we've seen, it doesn't look like there was a lot of activity after this period. Like it was taken over, redone into a different plantation. I haven't seen
Mhm.
any evidence for that yet.
Okay. And Simon Donkers, do we know who he is and was he Jewish?
Donkers was a large name of the time. There is a house called the Donkers House that's downtown that was excavated. The family name has history. Simon is part of the family, and I'm not sure where he falls into that. We do have, as you can see, there's lots of names and ownership and plantations here, but they do have different family names of people who owned what. And so you can get an idea that there are lots of owners of lots of lands. And from the location and the scale, and in some of the buildings that we saw beautiful archways that were done for some of the facilities out of stone. That kind of thing takes time and money. And so it suggests that this is probably a pretty mainstay, high-end plot of land to have. Central to town, easy to get to the facilities. This is probably owned by a relatively wealthy person or would be sold for a wealthy amount.
Do we know the faith of this individual? That's
Can
what
I answer that question? Because I did some
There you
research
go.
on that recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was looking at the marriage and death records for both the Christian and the Jewish communities of St. Eustatius around 1800. And the Jewish community is very small around that time, and there's a really limited number of surnames, and Donkers is not one of them. I think he's from a Christian family.
Okay.
I will point out a really interesting one. It doesn't quite hit us, but as part of this Princess Plantation, you can see over here a little separated plot. It says Cleansy. It is completely unique. We don't have any family names that doesn't sound like a European name. There's been an idea that it could have been one of the only places marked on the map that was a piece of land given to a freed person. The name is just all we've got to go on, and we have nothing else. But it doesn't seem to be a plantation type structure. It seems very small little abodes, and it's just on the corner end. So the Princess Plantation, this larger area or owned by Donkers in the family, I think there's a lot of research that can be done, things that can be found. But the concern there is that the majority of plantation-based activities, and perhaps those that were working there, are in the area that we're looking at for this plot of land. I will.
So
Yeah.
Nick, this is all very mind-boggling to me. It goes to show you that in the past, so much research was done, and as a community, we have not been privy to a lot of this information. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's shocking, but it's kind of frustrating to know to hear these things like Simon Dunker, and the fact that the piece of land that we have selected, that was of course also a plantation, and that there is a high possibility that we may encounter additional burial grounds. But of course, I know in archaeology you do not touch those, you leave those. So look, this brings about a whole lot of questions, and I'm thinking, how could we as an implementation committee know more about this Princess Plantation thing? How are there documents that we could maybe tap into for us to get a better idea of the history? Because now you're telling us a lot, and this is now documented, so we have this to share. Can we get additional information in regards to this area?
Absolutely. I can pull everything that I have, and in the process, I will request the documents that I can't access online. It's pretty common in archaeology that work was done in the 70s or 80s or 90s, and it only exists as a hand typed, or sometimes you're lucky, a printed page in the university or the institution that did it. So some of it will be tracking down the work, seeing what archives were saved. But since it was a field school, I wouldn't doubt that there are pictures and other write-ups by students or master's theses that touch on this topic as they're going. But if this is the property that we're selecting and moving forward with the DBA, at the end of this, part of what I'll be able to do is to provide you with not only those resources, but put them down in order so it makes sense of what we know, why, and when about at least this chunk of the plantation. My only other thing I could say is, you mentioned in the beginning that you had 4 plots of land that you were interested in, and this had advantages, so you went this way. You could also send me the outlines of the other 3 plots. I could do the research on this plot, but then really quickly overlay the other plots you gave me and just see if they also land on known sites, or there is an easier way to say this plot is completely clear from what we know. It looks to be all plantation land versus there is known archaeological work done.
Can I interject
Do
something?
that?
So I think that so far we've got so much information, Nick, thank you, about what might be present on this land, and that's really helpful. But I also noticed that you mentioned that there's already been an excavation on this site, and I was just wondering if you could say something about the advantages for the reburial project of there having already been archaeological work done there.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. And I'll bring up the satellite map real quick just to look as we talk about that. When we have previous archaeological work, it's not only very helpful from the background research stage. We've got lots of people who have already started to dive into this and to discuss it, but it gives us a lot of ideas about that plot of land's depth, how the land built up over time, how much is preserved, what the layers are, and how deep those things are preserved. And in this case, I think we've got enough of the foundations from the previous work that once we get their maps, we can overlay them with something like you see here. And really quickly, we'll see where the previous surveys had been and where their depth of soil went sterile. And by that, I mean, when they kept digging down, eventually you get to a place where there's no artifacts and you're not going to get any more artifacts. That soil was deposited thousands of years ago before people. It's usually pretty deep on Statia, but if you know that surface area about where the buildings are located and you know your depth profile, it's very helpful for picking out possible areas where you could avoid things. Now, I will say real quick, right up here, can you see the satellite image?
Yeah.
Excellent. Right up here is where I believe we have most of the current existing ruins of the sugar boiling facility. I want to say they're in this area, and I believe there's a little over here we have evidence of. Over here is we're getting very close to the Jewish cemetery. That's this location here. And here is this eroding wall that I think is a major concern. If we know most of it is here and this is a risk, we may have a good spot here. For example, they may have already tested this plot. And I don't know that. I don't know if they came here and started working on what was visible, or if they put holes around the area and then had a map that shows us which places ran into foundations or artifacts and which ones were not. And that's a great way that you can imagine if you peppered the area with 100 holes, you can do minimal impact and then maybe find an area where there's lots of missing places, no artifacts. We call it a negative return. That would make that idea, as you discussed, easier to say, I don't even need to spend time over here, and I really don't want to spend time over here. As an archaeologist, I would say, let's go right up here. Maybe I could do a couple of test holes, or maybe we have an excavator start in a specific spot slowly, and we use that as a test hole, like a monitoring, as a way to not spend our time restudying things that have already been extensively studied.
Thanks, Nick. And I was also thinking once something has been excavated down to the sterile soil, it can't really be excavated again because all of the archaeology is then gone. So once the trench has been dug, that's not something that we need to repeat in 2026.
Right. We can't redig archaeology. It's one and done. Though I would guess that most of the work was localized. And again, I'm not sure if they dug trenches or they did any mechanical scraping or test pits. Part of me would believe that they focused on what was easy and available, and they just excavated around the immediate buildings. That would kind of be your first step. Instead of digging for mystery things, stick with what you got. So my current assumption is that this is a little riskier and this is a little riskier, but there are areas in this plot of land that could turn out to be exactly what we need. And I think it's a great plot of land. It is a great location. It's got deeper soils because it's on that hillside. And it's in a place that the public can easily access it. And it's already near places that are known for memorial or for internment. So I think there are advantages to the plot as well.
Nick, so initially when Zimmerman had asked you, are you going to assess, should we assess the entire 6,000 instead of the 2,500? But now you're saying, based on the research, based on what you know, perhaps we can just be very specific and go and analyze, focus on the piece where we would probably anticipate that there's not that much to be found there. So it would not be the 6,000 square meters. Is that what you're now saying? We could zoom in and focus on that area?
Yes, and I'll clarify. For the desk-based assessment, we'll see that as step one. There's going to be 2 or 3 steps, depending on how much archaeology is there. But step one will cover the 6,000 square feet area simply because it's all a part of the same plots, and I can't really do research on a very specific spot of that plantation. It wouldn't be as helpful. I can do the whole Princess Plantation, focus down on just the place that's been excavated and studied before that we've outlined. And then emerging from that, I should be able to say, these are the known areas, these are the unknown areas. And so for our actual digging, when we actually get in there, I don't think we're going to need to work on 6,000 square feet. We'll be able to pick out 1 or
Square
2
meters.
areas that fit.
Square
Sorry.
meters. Sorry, yes.
Meters. I got to get out of the States more. We'll be able to pinpoint which of those 2,500 square meters would work. Or we may find that it doesn't. We may find that there is not 2,500 square meters here available for the project.
Got it.
2,000 would be good also. I have another question. Can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
You see the area where we have the containers there, how they call it?
Here, the hospitainer.
The hospitainer. When they had put the hospitainer there, was there any assessment done at that time for the hospitainer that we can get information from that, if they had any?
That is an excellent question, and I do not know the answer. Does anyone know when the hospitainer went in?
There was during COVID time. That should be around
Yes,
2000,
maybe 2021. Maybe 2021.
2021. Mm-hmm. Close
Then
to
I would
the
imagine
time of how you call it, COVID.
COVID. Yeah, I would imagine it should have. During COVID was during the transition time for SCHIC, the group that would have been responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
Ruge Stelton would have been the archaeologist, I think, at the time, or he had already left. That was right during that golden rock era. And then I would have come a year or 2 after that. I came right at the end of COVID. When my time, I don't remember anyone talking about having done work or done the report, and I don't remember seeing a report from our side of things. But that is something I can look into.
I wonder when they were going to put the hospitainer there, if it was necessary at that time to do all kind of research, or they just went and put it there. Because
Well, I'll
right
tell you
now
that it
we're
should
going
have
to
been.
do assessment, we're going to study, we're going to do a lot of things. I think we're doing it the correct way too. But yeah, if it wasn't necessary at that time in 2021, why would it be necessary to do this kind of study now, if it wasn't necessary then?
Certainly. It would have been necessary then, at least from what I know. I would have to know why they would have chosen not to, or argued that this plot doesn't need it. It's even closer to the ruins for that facility, so it would be surprising of why that whole area was cleared without it. But I don't know, and that
No, but
happens
I don't
often.
know. I'm just asking because I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and same. Do we know, was the hospitainer done by the local government or a group that would have ordered the study? Because if SCHIC doesn't have it, it could have been ordered by someone else, but the copy of the report should have ended up with the group that paid for it.
And if there is one, it would be useful for you, right?
Absolutely. Not only why they let this get built without any further work would be a great question, but does that inform us? Did they determine that all the archaeology was already done in this plot, and we just need to monitor, keep our eyes out for surprises, but for the most part, things have already been excavated and studied, and there's low risk of accidental destruction.
And
To
another
answer your question, Nick, I have no idea. 2021 was a very that was the time of the Dutch takeover, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So Statia was pretty much controlled by the Dutch government at that point in time. So I do not know if they had contracted SCHIC or not. And I don't know how we would go about retrieving that information. I see Brother Quiverly has his hand up.
Yes, in relation to the Hospitaners fall under the direct control of the Ministry of Health, Well-being and Sport in Den Haag. So it's not a local government, how must I say, setting. Up until today, if you're on Statia, you will see the signs outside, which is actually marked in relation to the Ministry of Health in Den Haag. So this was something which actually, and it goes back to what Sister Siamada just illustrated, at the time, that was then the takeover of the island in general, whereof the supervision and everything which took place during that time was under control of the central Dutch government. So in how far the central Dutch government had any consultation with SCHIC, that is not known. What we do know is that Mannix van Rijn, who was actually the head of appointees at the time for the Dutch central government, his wife is in the board of SCHIC up until today. So there should be some link, although we don't have that as public information.
Perhaps it's something we could reach out to the Dutch archaeology department or heritage managers and ask if we're doing a project, and if they could do a little sleuthing on their end, it would be appreciated.
What do you mean, the National Agency of Heritage in the Netherlands? Is that what you're talking about?
I do forget the formal name. When we had went to visit in Holland, we were able to speak with the main group that manages archaeology regulation. And they were always kind enough to at least say that they're willing to help us dig up whatever we need from the past if they've got it. But we could reach out to contacts and see if they could provide us with any information on the development or the process.
It's something we'll look into.
Who
Peggy?
give?
Oh, Zimmerman. Okay. Zimmerman.
give?
Okay, Zimmerman. Okay, Zimmerman, and then Peggy. Go ahead, Zimmerman.
Okay. Who give instructions to build the Hospitainer? There we should go and ask that question. Who we call the opdrachtgever, the one that gave the instruction for this to be built.
Again, Brother Zimmerman, who gave the instruction for them to be placed or built the Hospitaners? I'm telling you, that is directly from the Ministry of Health, Well-being and Sport in Den Haag. So it's it was not a local. It was not a local mandate. It was from the central Dutch government who placed those Hospitaners there.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. Hi. I'm looking at this aerial, and it's dated 2023. So you look at the area where there's a lot of disturbed dirt, and then there's some sort of, I don't know if that's a water container to the upper right or what's going on there. Is there some sense of what was happening there more recently, what's been going on there?
This is actually a follow-up question I have as well, is in our work, I can only do so much from the desk here.
Yeah.
It would be really helpful if either the Department of Culture or anyone with the committee, if they could start to ask that question exactly. Within the last 100 years, or at least last 60, 70 years since our aerials, do people have pictures of any of the work? Do they know if it was used for storage, for construction? Did any earth come in and get placed on top, or did they dig some out? Those kinds of land use questions that are recent history are really best for the station community. And it's always the thing we were missing when I was there on the island before. So if we have that better community connection, I think we could fill in some of those gaps, certainly.
It's a good
And
question.
um,
That's very good. Mm-hmm.
yeah, just another quick question, if I may. Thanks for walking through just how you see the steps. You know, just clarify for me, if you have a community group that says we need 2,500 square feet, uh,
Meters, sorry.
I mean meters, sorry, 2,500 square meters. Um, did I hear you say that are we talking test pits throughout that entire area, except for the area that we know around the Hospitainer? Are we talking about test pits throughout that entire area to determine what's there? Or are we
I lean
about taking
no.
a general area and just saying, okay, let's just sort of look at a 25 square meter area. Let's look at that area and we're going to map out, if we were to do any test pits, this is what we do.
I don't think we would need testing of the whole area, mainly because we know that a lot of it has been excavated. This desk-based component, I can do research the whole area that we've got and pick those areas that are more likely to be suitable for our goals.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we've got, say, 2 areas in this that are 2,000 square meters,
Mm-hmm.
we could say, if we don't have a preference, let's put 2 or 3 holes in this one. Let's put 2 or 3 holes in this one,
Mm-hmm.
or let's do more, whatever our choice is. And then we can come back with that data and say, look, we hit a couple of things here, but this one had nothing. Our best guess is to go to the one that had nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but we still don't know. And so in such a scenario, we might test a little, pick
Mm-hmm.
one, and then get out the excavator and start digging slowly. We can clear off the top in layers. We don't just dig in really deep. And
Mm-hmm.
when you clear off in layers, you can usually see pretty quick if you're going to hit posts or foundations for structures, or if you've got scatter. And in Statia, artifact scatter is everywhere. And so unless it has some sense to it, unless it's clearly a site or it's clearly an area, those are the kind of things that we can kind of set aside and say, look, this is our best bets, probably no major finds here. Let's go ahead and start the project. And then we dive into digging out the big area we need, but preferably still you have someone on site watching, just in case you hit something that you don't expect. So for summary, let me just say, it starts with the bigger desk-based assessment. I can pinpoint it to areas within it, and then the next step would be testing. And after testing, if we're comfortable, then we would go to digging full excavation in that process.
Well, I thought you would only go to digging full excavation if you found something that seemed like it wasn't scattered, that in fact it is.
Sorry, when I say digging, I don't mean that we would excavate it. I mean that we would rebury. So in this project, we don't need to develop anything on this land. We are searching for a plot of land that we won't disturb much.
Right.
So at least as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we find that there is a lot of stuff on this plot of land, it may be best to choose either a different plot and not disturb anything, or we think that this is still the best one, and then we would need to do more archaeological work. But my guess is that what we're going to do now is we're going to find out that there is certainly archaeology on this plot, but there are a couple spots that would be suitable for our goals. Then we have to decide if we're going to test those spots or move on to another plot. If we test them and they seem good to go, then we can dig our hole for reburial. I don't expect doing any archaeological excavation for research purposes. Archaeology only for mitigation or learning, trying to avoid damage in that sense.
All right. Peggy, go ahead.
Sorry, one more question, Shamara.
Yes.
Based on the earlier map of the plantation and the location of those abodes where possibly enslaved African people were living, that becomes significant as well anyway. I mean, whether you build there or not. So it does become, I just sort of say this out loud. I don't necessarily ask for a response, but what comes to mind is if it does work out that reburial can happen on this site, that area where we're looking at these little buildings that look like they're adjacent to the work site, which was, for some plantations in the United States, that was typical. You had these little abodes when they were building mansions, but it just saved time if the workers were right there in front of the construction site. So that I just sort of I think the community needs to think about that as a very sacred space as well. So that's all I say. And that it adds to the sacredness of reburial if it works.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the things I would appreciate too from that community is instead of just having a sterile archaeological report from someone who doesn't live there, if you have some quotes by the community or at least points that you can make in the report that this has a special place of meaning. It's been a long time internment area. There's multiple churches in the region, and it was a place where enslaved people may have been operating. All of those things can be knitted together in a much better cohesive narrative that people can learn and support and keep alive as you're doing the memorial, rather than just, this is what I know from the past. You're clear to put it in there. It becomes more of a living document that helps, I think.
Awesome. I'm going to go to Felicia and then I'm going to go to Brother Kenneth. But based on those thought-provoking questions that Peggy asked and based on what you were saying, if it turns out that this site has a lot going on, and Peggy talked about the sacredness of the site, and we are thinking about a memorial design, if we agree that this would still be the location, then I think what I'm also hearing between the grapevine, well, what I think I'm hearing from this is that our memorial space, it would have to be a space that we would not interrupt as much as possible. We wouldn't have to put buildings on it. So it would really have to be a sacred space with maybe the trees, but nothing really major in terms of construction. And it seems as if that is the direction that this may go into. So I think that that is something for us to really bear in mind, that this is a sacred space. So we might need to make some readjustments, and it might just have to be a real greenery, scenery location where we just go and, etc., etc., etc. All right. So that's what I'm getting now. That's the feeling that I'm having. And I see that Peggy is agree with me, so that's a good thing. So Felicia and then Brother Kenneth.
Thanks, Shamara. I just wanted to clarify about the test pitting thing. So that any test pitting that needs to be done or any eventual excavation that needs to be done, that's in a following phase. So all Nick is going to do right now is the desk-based assessment, which doesn't involve any digging at all. And then any decisions that need to be made about digging are taken after the desk-based assessment is done, and then we have all the information that we need to be able to make that decision. So it's quite hard to actually say at this point, when the desk-based assessment hasn't been started yet, what will be needed. We just have to wait and discover the outcome of Nick's report.
All right, Felicia. Dr. Kenneth?
Yeah, a little bit in relation to what Felicia just said. Going back, let's say, and I heard Nick said a while ago, let's say after the screening, it appears that the allocated land is not suitable. We know for one that actually we've been going through now this process now for years with different options on the island where the local government, including the central government behind the scene, has disapproved of almost every other option on the island. So I'm thinking, let's presume for a moment that this allocated lot of land is not suitable. Who and how would we be able to convince the government that other lot which we think would be suitable would they go and agree on? And who will take that initiative? Because in the first analysis of the situation in relation to the reburial, a majority of people spoke out on the island that the most appropriate and suitable spot was to actually rebury the ancestors in the location where they were excavated from. Where up until today, the Implementation Commission, the Alliance, or no one has got a credible answer as to why that was not possible. All we heard, it is not possible because of future possible development. So I think this whole process is very much more complicated than we think it is with the politics around it. So again, my question, let's say, I presume, hypothetically speaking, the conclusion is that that location is not suitable. How would we get the government to be convinced, as we will suggest, a suitable other spot than this? How would that, that is my concern right now.
What I could suggest, if you, sorry, yeah, if you'd like, you could add on the other 3 plots that you were considering. I could focus on this plot, do the DBA on this plot, but then have a quick review, very quick, not full DBAs, but point to the other pieces of property and say, these are the 4 we've chosen. This one here is the preferred. This is the result. But if we have to say it looks very difficult to dig into, and the other 3 are also in problematic areas, it's easy to see that this one is also in a plantation zone where there was work here, etc. You could present all of that at once to the government and say, these are the 4 spots. Our favorite doesn't work. The other ones don't look like they're going to work. We'll have to spend lots of money evaluating all 4. What are we going to do with that scenario? The only downside is we don't have a lot of other options. As you've said, you've already talked about different options and they've been thrown back. They've said no for whatever reasons they have. But I just wanted to put out, I don't mind looking at those other outlines. That could be kind of quick with some of the maps and just be able to say something like this. Is it something that's immediately worrisome, or does this one look like, a better one that we have a plan B or C or something?
Because to add to your explanation, Nick, let's say the screening start and we discover that there are human remains there, which are not basically African human remains. From a traditional ancestral point of view of reburial, we cannot mix our ancestors' remains with other remains other than African. So that also could be an aspect which can be complicated or make the situation even more complicated, because at this point in time, we know that this location is just to the back of the old church, the Jewish cemetery. We have no indication of what is there or what we will encounter, or maybe other human remains which are not African. That as well will constitute a problem.
Certainly.
Nick, I'm just being very practical, and it ties back to what I have said before, and it's in relation to also what Peggy said. With the exception of non-African remains, and even that is a discussion. That's a community discussion, okay? With the exception of non-African remains, if there's a lot going on, and if we say we are not going to disturb, we are just going to put them back, and keep the space as natural as possible, is that not possible? I'm thinking it doesn't have to be that complex. If there's a lot going on, we put them in the ground. We have that as a memorial space. It is also part of the princess plantation. So I am thinking if we keep it as natural as possible, would it be able to work from an archaeological perspective? And not to, and of course you have to talk with the community. What are your thoughts on that?
Certainly, and I'll say what Felicia is said before is absolutely right. We don't really know until the research is done. However, I think what you're saying could work. I look at this and I see a lot of the structures in one end of the property. In our aerial that we saw earlier, we saw some dirt activity up here already. That tells me that this could be lightly used in the past and it may have already been disturbed. So just between us, without knowing anything else, this is my first, well, this might work kind of area. And if you're able to go in, I mean, 2,500 square meters sounds like a lot, but if we were to able to put a plot out and you could have a fairly controlled dig straight down, and then you fill it, you might have, we would have to do the math, but a meters by meters in a rectangular section that we were able to find a location with minimal issue, with no historic structures. We'll find artifacts scattered on the ground. We find it literally everywhere all the time. So again, it's not the individual artifacts. We'll see some of that. And so part of the process of digging will be looking and seeing what we have. But I think to simplify it, what you said is definitely a possibility, that there will be a spot that we could, with minimal impact to the existing plantation area or other possible burials, find a location to do it. I can't say that for sure until everything goes by. And I really hope that the work that was done in the 80s, they did some broader survey that they could comment on. But those things would help us kind of narrow down the plausibility of that. Is this actually a possibility for this site, or are we just kind of hoping it is?
Yeah, thank you, Nick.
Sorry. Is there, what are the numbers of remains, do you think? How many individuals do we know?
I believe it's 72, but
do you mean the ancestral remains to be reburied?
Yes.
69.
69.
69. Okay.
Can I draw our attention back to the agenda? I think we have covered most of the points actually. But I was just wondering, Nick, if you could say something about the timeline that you're working to and about the finances.
Certainly. I sent in a new quote, a bid there. I'm expecting about 40 hours of work for that, give or take. If it's less, it's less, but I won't charge you any more. If it's more, we'll do our best to stay on task and try and get that work done. Timeline wise, I believe Felicia mentioned you guys were looking for this in spring at some point. I don't remember if it was March or April or May or what your timeline is.
I think we said by April. Yeah.
By April. Okay. If it's by April 1st, we can probably get it done sooner. I have one more thing. It just hasn't been scheduled. So the sooner we know, the sooner I can start getting things together and shoot for a before April 1st deadline, for example, if that was easier.
Okay. And to add to that, thank you for bringing us back to the agenda, Felicia. Just to add, we the aspect of collaboration and the community on the ground, because you said that it would be nice if there are persons who would be able to participate in this process. And so my question to you is, how do you envision this? one of the things you've mentioned was that maybe it would be a good idea for persons on the ground to examine if there were recent activities and get that information to you. That's one of the areas in which they can collaborate. How else do you envision this collaboration with stations on the ground as you conduct this assessment?
Oh, that is an excellent question, and that's what I really hope the committee can help with as well. During my time on Statia, I found that stations want to know all they can about their local history. It's really about how it's being communicated and what the exchange is. Knowing exactly how to do that is a mystery. It's with every place is a little bit different with the communities that are there. What I envision is either the committee or a similar group, the Department of Culture, or maybe a local church group or something. Maybe it gets onto the radio, but something that could reach people to say, hey, we're doing some work on this plot of lands. The goal is for it to be a memorial. We know that there has been some research done in the past, but we don't know much about what's happened recently. And I mean, you can see lots of houses right outside of this area. So for me, the most useful thing is if anybody can either remember specific development, dirt moving that happened there, or if they have imagery, even from the 40s, the 60s, the 80s, of any extant structures, anything that it used to look like. Sometimes there's giant piles of earth and then they're gone a decade later and no one remembers why they got there or when it happened, but it can at least tell us more about that plot of land being used and how much mixing might occur. So I don't know if I have the best method, the specific way to get into station community and elicit a good response. But I'd be very receptive to either giving a presentation or a talk, or if people could put out a call to other interested members, or if you've got people that already are historically interested or have been involved, that they might be able to pass the word around and people could dig through old photographs, or if someone remembers, I don't know, probably before the Hospitainer, but any other work that was done or when the neighborhood was built, or, any of those things that aren't as easily recorded for an archaeologist to find within the last 70, 80 years or so.
Perfect. So you're looking for the stories, and what comes to mind, for example, the previous presidents also of the St. Eustatius Historical Foundations. Some of them are still on the ground. They might have that information. Some of the older heads. So it's
Yes,
really to put out a call to persons to share stories about that space. What do they remember? What did their parents tell them about that space when they grew up? Did they play in that
exactly,
area? What were the things that
exactly.
were done? So you're looking for the stories. Okay, the personal
And I'll
stories.
and I'll share one of my personal experiences. But during the Golden Rock excavation, when I first arrived, I was being explained all of the activities that had happened. But the archaeologists were adamant that no one knew there was a burial ground there, that no one knew any bodies were nearby or there were graveyards. Adamant. Almost every time I presented in Statia or spoke with stations about this, I had multiple stations coming up to me and telling me, we've known there were burials there. My father used to work there and he told me they were there. My grandpa had pointed out to that area to be careful not to pick up things. We got all sorts of stories. And then during our digs, we also found animal burials, donkeys, dogs near the human burial areas. And so it just became clear to me that if we're only going to stick within the traditional professional European approach to doing a DBA, we're going to miss stuff. And we're going to be saying things that are absolutely untrue that the community is going to feel completely ignored by. And so if people can come out and explain any more of this, I would love to have a section, a paragraph, anybody who wants to write in their own words, even what this place means. As you pointed out, this has had a long history, a long memory. And so it seems suitable that in the DBA, as we're analyzing it, that we can make a statement, or some community member, an older head, as you said, could make a statement about this being a known place of worship or memorial for some time, or if it's not, obviously. But those kinds of things, while they're not always treated as scientific, they are extremely useful for what we do, and they're often ignored.
Awesome, awesome. A lot for us to process. I love that. I love that. Looking at the agenda, I think we have pretty much covered the DBA, the financial aspect. You have submitted your proposal to us. So we are certainly going to look into that and try to get the process started. And as a committee and also other stations in this group, we are going to think about how we can get the word out there, and perhaps persons in this group have memories of the space, things that they have heard. Please share it with us. We have a WhatsApp group, Nick. I'm going to put it in the WhatsApp group. Hopefully persons can get the word out in that way. We are on Facebook so that we can start capturing the stories. We have the local radio, and I think we're going to have to do some work on the ground as well. So this brings me then now to questions, feedback from anyone here in this group. Do you have any questions? Do you have any feedback? Do you want to contribute, etc., etc.? Please feel free to engage.
Just pose a question there concerning cadastre.
Go ahead, Zimmerman. Uh-huh.
You see my question?
Oh, you
Oh,
put
sorry.
function. Oh,
Let me pull it up.
oh.
Are we going to research the whole plot of land? Oh, Mr. Budsberg had contact with Cadastre.
Yes.
Cadastre. I don't know the name. Are they local on the island, or is it a group?
What's cadastre in
Cadastre.
English? What's cadastre in English? That's a Dutch
The
name, right?
land registry,
The land registry.
Land registry.
Land registry. So I when my time was there, they were doing a new planning document. Like every 10 years or so, they do a new planning surface document. I have part of their research that they had shared with us. I don't think it's going to tell us much about this, but if there was people there that had access to the cartography, the maps, the cadastre references, I could reach out to them. But I don't know specifically if they have a registry for something like this. I haven't been able to pull something like that in the past. If you guys have a local registry too, something a local institution that keeps records, that could be also very useful. But I doubt they are digitized on my end.
It's well, there's a cadastre representative in here. I don't want to put him on the spot, but if he does not respond, I am going to follow up with him and ask him these questions, Nick. So I'm not putting anyone on the spot.
The reason I ask is because I visited cadastre in 2024, and I saw maps there. They even have satellite imagery that shows a section where they think are ruins on the land. So that might be very helpful for you, Mr. Budsberg.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll bring up the one I have too, but the one I have is from the 60s, and I'm sure they have done more flyovers, but this is that one from before that was done by the government from planes.
Mm-hmm.
The best we can see is that plot right here that shows us those two ruins. But if I remember from the archaeology, they had said that was still standing was a sugar boiling facility. I don't know if there was a rum distillery still present. There was an animal mill, which is usually a circular structure that the animals walk in a circle and turn things. And so, yeah, there were still standing buildings that were visible from those aerial shots. And then I believe during the excavation in the 80s, they had done some land clearing. And that's one of the things here that is, it can be hard. When we first went, most of the ruins were completely covered and you couldn't see the basic stones. So
can you zoom in on this map? Can you zoom in so that it's more clear?
Sure can. And you can see these are crosses on the left-hand side. Yeah, in between is just the mapping, but the ones that are longer on the bottom are, in fact, crosses marking areas where there were burials.
I see the word ruin there. Ruina.
Correct. And that is, I believe this is the circle, what would probably be the animal mill. There seems to be a structure here. This, I would guess, is the boiling facility. It's shaped a bit like that. And then another structure looks represented. I don't know if these are denoting walls or lines or anything like that, or if they are separate plots of land.
According to this map, most probably the empty space where there is no circle, no structure, I think that could be used. We will find out with your work after your work is done, but I think that part is clean.
I bet our best guess is here, if that's what you're referring to.
And further down also.
Down here?
Down below the word ruina.
In this area?
Yeah.
Yeah, that very well maybe as well. There are ruins down in this section, and it will just depend on how far down they come.
And that section would be big enough for us. It maybe it's not 2,500, maybe it's 2004, 2003. We can use that. Then we don't have to go where we know there are objects. We stay away from them.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to ask you, Mister, you see this map, how you have it orientated? The other map that you had was like turn 90 degrees. Could you turn it so that it orientates with this one so that I can have a better view of it?
Certainly. And I can
this is okay. I understand this one, but the other map that you have.
Let's see. I think I have to stop and reload. And I'll believe it is this one. And I'll back up so you can see the island. Oh, once it loads. Okay. And so, yeah, we are twisted, and I don't know if I can twist in Zoom. I don't think I can rotate.
You see the Y that you had been indicating us? That Y?
Correct?
Yeah.
Right here?
Where is that Y? This. Yes. But now it has to turn for me to orientate it correctly.
Correct. Yeah, the
Y. You understand what I mean?
At the top. Let me see.
Because here the Y is from, let me call it from north to south, and on the other map, the Y is from west to east. So, you know, for me to have a good orientation, this one needs to turn.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna take a picture from this. It's important for me.
Oh, you have to have apples to apples, or you cannot compare. It's absolutely true.
In the meantime,
I will put these maps into.
I took a picture. I'm gonna try to do it later on my own. I took a picture of this one. Okay.
Okay. You said you had a Google Drive or a folder I could upload things, or an email I can flood with stuff?
No. I have a Google.
The group.
The group, can you do that for the group?
Yeah.
Okay.
If there was a Google Drive or anything that you guys have as a working group, I could add it to a set of files. Or if we're just sharing emails at this juncture, I can. We have
our Google Drive. We have our Google Drive, so we will share that with you. We have so we will do that so that you could send that information to all of us, and then we would make sure provide it to everyone as well.
Okay,
absolutely. I'll upload whatever I've got that can help.
Yes, and Mr. Cadastre is saying, not calling any names. He said that they have some maps, but not far back, and domain. So they're the department that are responsible for managing government land. So that's separate from the cadastre. He said they probably was busy with new spatial planning documents, not the cadastre. And he's saying, is it possible to get a copy of this old map? Is it on the internet?
Yeah, good question, that last one.
So I'll say some of these things are on the internet, but the hard part is they're not the best quality. So I will upload you the best quality ones that I've got. So if
Okay.
Mr. Cadaster could also be added, or I could send him separately, however that works. But I am more than happy to share any of this. This is all supposed to be public data, and it's very hard to find in one place. So it's good that we can start
Yeah.
to collate it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for answering my question.
Yes,
Anytime. I'm happy to do
yes.
it.
So are there any other questions for Nick? Because we are going to close off in a few in the next 5 minutes. Are there any comments, questions? Is everything clear? I
Is
guess
Nick
so.
now, are you in Statia right now, or you in the
I am not. I'm in the States. I'm close to Canada right now.
States?
Freezing cold.
When you
Yeah.
planning to go Statia?
Man, as soon as I get to. Um, I would hope that it's sometime in the next year or sooner. If it times with this project, great.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we can do it at the same time and cross over. For us, it's just cost and the other projects going on.
I
And
would love to come over when you're there, meet you there, and if necessary, even work a little bit with you.
Oh, I would love to. We
I
should we
can
should all
throw
be
a
there.
pick and a shovel.
Do it. Let's do it. We need it. And I got two young kids that still remember Statia quite clearly, and they are always asking me to go back. And if you know anything about Washington State, our ocean is freezing. And so when the boys want to go to the beach, they are so disappointed. I have to get them back to Statia just so that they can be satisfied.
Mm. Okay, just let me know when, and then I will try to be there. Right now,
Lovely.
I'm in St. Martin, and actually, I'm planning to go this Friday to stay to Saba. And with they have the boat, the Edge. You go in the morning, 9 o'clock, and you back in St. Martin by 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And then by Monday or Tuesday, I will see if I can go Statia in the morning also and come back with the last flight.
If anyone wants to ever take pictures, current pictures of the plot, you could throw those into the Google Drive. I
That's a
almost
good idea.
always use a fresh
Okay.
image of it. And
Yes.
if you see ruins, take shots of them. Part of what we want to do
Yes.
is describe the existing things that you can see very clearly, so
Yeah.
everybody has it. But
I
but I would encourage not to do any clearing or any digging or
No,
anything
no,
like
no, no,
that.
no, 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 no.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
Only if you're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
now can
Peggy.
I
Peggy.
I
Yes.
yeah, the only thing I would add is, I almost feel like no matter where you dig on the island, and this is on many of these islands, you're going to find, cultural material. And so this is really going to be a process, whether it's desk-based, whether we even talk in advance. And I always find it important, even though we're talking about this first phase, preparing a community to consider what you do next in terms of test pits, that kind of thing. That's something I don't find there to be a downside to talk about that. Because after all, really one of the reasons why you're engaging the community is that the community wants assurances that that history, or whatever may be in that site is not going to be compromised. And because there could be who knows, when I see abodes where enslaved Africans could have lived, they also could have been buried there. At least during the time that I was there was a whole talk about where they're on plantations where folks expected there to be burials on each of these plantations on the island. But as we think about this, I may be wrong, but I can't help but think about this site as, or as we talk about this site, as you move through the assessment, that, there's nothing wrong with making a case for this site being that site for reburial. When you talk about what a memorial is, a memorial is never defined by architecture, always defined by architecture. Memorialization happens in a lot of different ways, right? It is expressed in many different ways. The other piece is, even with the New York African burial ground, we reburied within the burial ground. And the question was, are we going to disturb some other burials? Because we reburied in a section where there were other burials. And the reality is that there was a decision to sink vaults so that we reburied over 400 burials in small coffins. So to the extent that we think in terms of maybe there isn't one big hole, maybe there are a couple of holes where vertically remains actually are reburied. But I think that what happens is you end up with long discussions, long lead times. And I think that, no matter where you sort of dig on this island, there's going to be something of substance. And, thinking about whether there can be a case made for reburying happening here. Particularly, I'm really intrigued by the little huts or abodes that appear on this plantation, and the thought that these were people who were not at rest on that site, and the idea and the power of the community being able to bring to rest those who have been dug up and sitting in boxes right now and have them repatriated or reburied or buried in that site, and that site gets redefined. And these are conversations that I think the community needs to think about, as well as the professionals. The community reclaiming the site and redefining its significance, over a building or the foundations of, a building which really was symbolic of not being at rest and the enslavement of people. So anyway, I share that as sort of food for thought as you move forward.
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a
Wonderful,
lot that can be done.
wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome, Peggy. That's really, and I want to say one more thing before I pass the word to Brother Kenneth. I do not believe in chance, Peggy. I do not believe in coincidence. The fact that we chose this as the most favorable, I do not believe that that is by chance. So I think you know what I mean. And what you
Yes.
have said have, reaffirmed that perhaps this was because I did not really know much about the Princess Plantation. So to hear this and to know the significance of this space, I do not believe it's by chance. Brother Kenneth?
Agreed.
Yeah. I have a question. I see on the agenda you have the financial details in relation to why is that on the agenda?
Why is it on the agenda? Because of course it's about the desk-based assessment, and we have received the quotation from Nick. So that's why it was placed on the agenda, because at the time we had not received the quotation, but we have. So I'm just letting the community know, persons know, that we have received the quotation, and we will proceed with the desk-based assessment. That's why
Yeah.
that was on the agenda.
Okay, and to add to that, I think it's important all we speed up as best as possible whatever activities we can execute, because there's this money which is resting pending on
Yes.
this year in relation to reburial. If enough activity has not been taken, that money as well has the risk to be retracted and be taken back. So we really have to push with community the whole reburial heading up to November, which actually is going to be a great challenge.
Yes, it is. And this jump starts this. So I think, as you and I had discussed, once we would have started this process, we would hopefully be able to tap into those funds as well. So then we would be able to contact the director and said, well, hey, now that we have met with the archaeologist, the desk-based assessment will now commence. And I hope
I
that
think, yeah, I think it's good to record this as part of the activity timeline in
yeah,
relation to the funding, because
yes,
this step and every other step is potentially crucial to the funding. So every step in regard to the reburial, we should take and have an overview of the timeline so we can present that to the people who have that amount of funding reserved so that they can see that activity taking place in relation to the final step going towards the reburial.
yeah. Point taken. So we will certainly do that, Brother Kenneth. And with that said, Nick, thank you so much. We really appreciate what you have shared and your perspective. And Peggy, thank you too, Zimmerman, everyone else, Brother Kenneth, who is in here, Felicia, all the things that you have shared. It really gives us a clearer direction. So, Nick, we are going to send you the information that you have requested. We will make the Google Drive available so that everyone would have access, be able to view the documents. Zimmerman, you said you might go over to Statia. If you do, please do take pictures of the site. If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Cadastre to do so. Or Taro is in this space as well. Perhaps you, Taro, and maybe Mr. Kutad, you can also take some pictures. And remember, please pass the word on in regards to personal stories that persons might have about this particular location. Start with your own family and let us collect that information so that we can make that part of this assessment. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you,
So thank
everyone.
you all,
Appreciate it.
Nick. Thanks, everyone. And we will have a follow-up as soon as possible.
Great.
Sounds good. Thank
Take
you. I'll get
care.
started gathering things and put them into the drive for you guys as I see it.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Hey, thank you.